From the latest news to your favorite tunes, we've got your back morning, night, and afternoon. Join our family, connect with your crew. Kings FM 88.5, just for you.
From Royal Communications Incorporated, good afternoon and welcome to King's News Broom 45 minutes news about Liberia, Africa, and our one world. Today is Friday, August 8th, 2025, and I'm Shemadia presenting. In the headlines, thousands of Liberians concerned Liberians against drug abuse petition national legislature to amend current drug law from 20 years to life imprisonment for traffickers, as Bapolo County Senator Boto Cannon says the government has failed on its responsibilities. Supreme Court of Liberia cites former ruling party CDC and its headquarters landlord lawyers for legal conference over CDC's claims of existing seal contract with the property administrator. In the news this afternoon, the U.S. Embassy Liberia plus Liberian civil society organizations and community-based organizations for organizing national march against drug abuse. It says that Liberia has been dealing with a flood of illicit drugs in several years. Away from home, the Zambian government has made claims of dangerous pollution in the Cooper Belt mining region, following safety concerns raised by the U.S. Embassy. Tanzanians are mourning veteran politician and former Speaker of Parliament Joe Nembi, who became the first to resign from the role after a public fallout with the president. This plus the news bulletin voices of those making news at our package. We'll take a short break to be right back. Welcome back at this juncture. We join Newton Tokwa with the news bulletin.
A citizens group known as Concerned Liberians Against Drug Abuse has petitioned the government of Liberia to amend the current drug laws. Citizens of all ages on Thursday took to the streets of Monrovia and its environs to call for a shift from a 20-year maximum sentence to life imprisonment for traffickers in the country. Reading the petition on Thursday at the Capitol grounds before the 55th legislature, the group, through an unnamed spokesperson, urged lawmakers to take what is described as decisive action to combat drug abuse, threatening the country's future. According to the petitioners, drug and substance abuse is severely damaging the next generation and eroding the social fabrics of communities across the country. The group emphasized that the current drug laws are too weak, allowing drug importers to operate with impunity, while the country's future generation continue to die in every community across the country. The Concerned Liberians Against Drug Abuse for the court on the government to strengthen all rehabilitation centers nationwide and to establish a special court dedicated to handling drug-related cases. Meanwhile, the group also urged members of the legislature to lead by example by reducing their salaries and benefits, redirecting those funds to national priorities like drug prevention and youth rehabilitation. The petitioners recommended that the executive branch declare August 7th of each year as a National Day Against Drug Abuse in recognition of the fight against the growing epidemics. In a related development, Bapolo County Senator Boto Kane and Representative Moiman Bruce Mensah of Broom County, who responded to the petition, admitted that the government has failed on its responsibility to protect children and communities from the growing threat of drug abuse. Speaking on behalf of the Senate pro tempore, following the submission of a petition by the Concerned Liberians Against Drug Abuse at the Capitol on Thursday, the chairperson on gender and members of the Women's Legislative Caucus called for an aggressive citizen traffickers in the country. During Thursday gathering, petitioners demand decisive legislative reforms, including life imprisonment for drug traffickers and creation of a special drug court, expansion of rehabilitation services, and the declaration of August 7 as a National Day Against Drug Abuse. The two lawmakers pledged an immediate task force that will crack down drug traffickers in every community. At the same time, the chief executive officer of the Bokonjide Group of Companies has expressed serious disappointment with the lack of support from lawmakers to grace the Say No to Drug Abuse protest at Capitol building. According to Elton Jones, illicit drug abuse is affecting every family member across the country as such lawmakers from the 73 districts and 15 counties must demonstrate commitment to the fight against illicit drugs. Jones claims that representatives and senators were not in their numbers to receive the petition from parents, relatives, and friends who came out to protest against illicit drugs, which is destroying the youthful population of the nation. He said the protest against Say No to Drugs demonstrated that Liberians from all walks of life want illicit drugs to be eradicated. He pointed out that President Joseph Walker should do everything possible to ensure that illicit drugs are a battle at all fronts to save Liberian children from drug abuse. Jones made the statement Thursday at the as Liberians turned out in their thousands to protest against illicit drugs in Liberia under the theme "Say No to Drugs." The presiding justice in chamber at the Supreme Court has cited CDC and late Martha Stubberfield property lawyers for a legal conference in connection to a petition filed by CDC legal team. Associate Justice Janet Clinton Johnson's August 6, 2025 notice of parties' lawyers is demanding them to appear before her on Friday, August 8th at 3 o'clock p.m. Justice Clinton Johnson's citation, according to our judicial correspondent, was triggered by CDC's lawyers' request accusing civil law court assigned Judge Smith of dismissing their petition for specific performance without any legal basis. CDC's petition claimed an existing contract between them and the administrator of the late Martha Stubberfield property that allowed them to occupy the 4.23 acres of land hosting their party headquarters in Congo Town, contrary to the property owner claimed to the court. Our judicial correspondent said that Justice Clinton Johnson's August 8th gathering with the parties is to hear from lawyers representing the administrator of the property in connection to the CDC's application before making any decisions on the matter consistent with Chapter 16, Section 16.22 of the Civil Procedure Law of Liberia. On August 1st, 2025, Judge Smith denied CDC's petition for specific performance on grounds that they failed to show any legal proof to the court for an existing contract between them and the administrator of the late Martha Stubberfield property for the sale of the 4.23 acres of land. As thousands of Liberians of Thursday took to the streets in central Monrovia to march against the alarming rise in drug abuse and trafficking, the U.S. government, through its embassy near Monrovia, is applauding civil society groups and community organizations for mobilizing against what many now call a national crisis. Liberians took to the streets to petition the government of Liberia against what they describe as high increase in drugs abuse by the youthful generation of the country. In a release from the U.S. government through its embassy near Monrovia, commended civil society groups and community organizations for raising their voices to draw attention to what it terms as critical issue and for taking a stand to safeguard Liberia's youth, communities, and future generations. The U.S. Embassy release noted that Liberia has been dealing with a flood of illicit drugs, most notably Kush, Tramadol, and cocaine, which has over the years damaged the lives of the country's future generation. Several practicing attorneys have begun filing their petition before the Supreme Court for admission to the Supreme Court's bar. The High Court Wednesday, according to our judicial correspondent, confirmed that it is receiving applications from several attorneys at law who have reached the 5 years legal requirement for admission as counselor at law, consistent with Chapter 17, Section 17.6 of the Judiciary Law of Liberia. The lawyer states any attorney who has been actively engaged in the practice of law for 5 years may submit a petition to the Supreme Court showing his moral and professional qualifications for membership in the bar of the Supreme Court and praying admission as the counselor of that court. Our judicial correspondent said though the actual number of applicants remain unknown, but the deadline for the petition's application is August 31st, 2025, which will be followed with the vetting of the petitioner's petitions before sitting for the court's legal exam consistent with law. The Liberal Annual Conference of the United Methodist Church has temporarily shut down the Stephen Turan Nangwe United Methodist Church due to what it called continued disruptions of worship and defiance against church authority. The decision announced through a statement signed by Bishop Samuel Choir followed 2 consecutive Sundays of unrest at the church, during which assigned pastors were reportedly rejected and Holy Communion services were disrupted by members resisting recent doctrinal reaffirmation. According to the statement, these actions stand in direct opposition to the teachings of the Lord and Savior Jesus Christ and values that the United Methodist Church holds sacred: peace, love, accountability, order, and mutual respect. The Liberal Annual Conference of the United Methodist Church also has ordered the sealing of the church premises and suspended all services and activities at the site, redirected all worship to nearby United Methodist churches. As a result, the LDC has ordered the sealing of the church premises and suspended all services and activities at the site. Worship is now being redirected to nearby United Methodist churches, while the district superintendent and senior pastor have begun giving authority to appoint interim auxiliary leaders. Relatives of Emmanuel Payne, an officer of the Liberia Drug Enforcement Agency who was allegedly killed through mob violence on Benson Street in the township of Caldwell, have threatened to retaliate against what they believe or who they believe are responsible for the death of the officer. On Thursday, family members of the LDA officer were seen on the Bushwell Island parading with photo of the deceased officers as protest against what the term government inability to apprehend his alleged murderers. The relatives of the victim, including his brother and mother, have expressed readiness to attack anyone suspected of killing the LDEA officer. They vow not to bury the deceased LDA officer until the Liberian government ensures justice by apprehending and prosecuting his murderers. The executive director of the National Rehabilitation for Drug and Wars Affected Persons has commended President Joseph Boakar's recent action plan aimed to combating the increase in the sale and consumption of drugs in the country. President Boakar on Thursday issued a special presidential directive announcing an aggressive multi-pronged national anti-drug action plan in response to alarming surge. The president's national anti-drug action plan to be implemented immediately and in accordance with law include seizure of properties linked to drug activities, performance mandate for LDA regional commanders within 6 months resource deadline, as well as national whistleblower program with cash, rewards, and protection for informants. Speaking in interview Thursday, retired Colonel Augustine Nangbe described the president's recent statement as the right step in the right direction. Nangbe called on the Liberian populace to cooperate with the president's action plan in order to avoid the country turning to Haiti in the nearby future. The Liberian government has reportedly transferred 300,000 United States dollars to the Office of the Establishment of the War and Economic Crimes Code of Liberia for operations. According to the new narrative, the government transferred 300,000 United States dollars out of its previously announced 2 million United States dollars promise to the Office for the Establishment of the War and Economic Crimes Code on Thursday, July 31st, 2025. For some time, the Office of the Establishment of the War and Economic Crimes Code has been complaining of the lack of funds for operation and payment of salaries for its employees. New narrative reporter Anthony Stephen put the amount at 15% of President Joseph Boakar's promised US $2 million for 2025 for its operations. A meaning Nina Farmers Incorporated in Bond County is seeking partnership with the government and non-governmental organizations for mass production of locally produced rice in the country. According to the Chief Executive Officer of the group, Michael Piwu, MNFI has been working with the Ministry of Agriculture on the Star Peak project, through which it secured grant to do an oil palm and canna mill. It also challenged President Joseph Walker to prioritize legal instruments that stands to benefit Liberians. People noted that failure to provide required financial and logistical support delivering the necessary results from the entity will be a serious problem. And the Environmental Protection Agency of Liberia has embarked on an awareness across Bong and Bapolu counties to encourage citizens to mitigate the spread of diseases and food insecurity and negative impact of climate change. Speaking to reporters on Thursday in Bong County, EPA Bong County Coordinator Victor Bayi called on residents to desist from cutting down forest trees and burning of dangerous substances, adding that they are major factors that are affecting the normality of the climate condition. Victor also acknowledged EPA's partnership with the Ministry of Agriculture and Action Aid to sponsor as sponsors for the mitigating processes. According to him, it is intended to maintain the country on a good atmosphere.
Nathan Tokba with the news bulletin. The news bulletin is a regular feature on King's Newsroom. A reminder you're listening to King's Newsroom 45 minutes news about Liberia, Africa, and our one world. Stories will follow in this afternoon. Thousands of Liberians concerned Liberians against drug abuse petition national legislature to amend current drug law from 20 years to life imprisonment for traffickers. As Bapolo County Senator Boto Cannon says, the government has failed on its responsibilities. Supreme Court of Liberia cites former ruling party CDC and its headquarters landlord lawyers for legal conference over CDC's claims of existing seal contract with the property administrator. U.S. Embassy Liberia applauds Liberian civil society organizations and community-based organizations for organizing a national march against drug abuse, except that Liberia has been dealing with a flood of illicit drugs in several years. Away from home, the Zambian government has dismissed claims of dangerous pollution in the Cooper Bell mining region following safety concerns raised by the U.S. Embassy. Take a break to be back with voices of the newsmakers. Welcome back and thanks for being there. The citizens group known as Concerned Liberians Against Drug Abuse has petitioned the government of Liberia to amend the current drug law. Citizens of all ages on Thursday took to the streets of Monrovia and its environs to call for a shift from a 20-year maximum sentence to life imprisonment for traffickers in the country. Reading the petition on Thursday at the Capitol building before the 55th legislature, the group, through an unnamed spokesperson, urged lawmakers to take what they describe as decisive action to combat drug abuse, which threatens the country's future.
We the people that demand immediate and decisive action by our government to save our nation from this minute. To the legislative branch of government, we demand that you amend the current drug law to citizens' participation to impose a minimum 20 years to life imprisonment sentence for anyone found guilty of child related of the first degree. The current law will start 10 to 20 years for first degree drug related felonies. These life sentences have failed and the law must be too deterrent. Make rehabilitation mandatory for apprehended drug user on bail or in prison. While the current drug law allows for drug user to have been apprehended in the act, bail without rehabilitation perpetuates the violent cycle. Additionally, the current law provides that when when convicted, the judge may order rehabilitation as an alternative to imprisonment. Rehabilitation must be mandatory for the drug user, even convicted and imprisoned. Direct the executive and sell all assets and properties acquired through the illicit drug trade, and redirect these resources to mental health and rehabilitation programs. That airlines and ship on which traffickers transport drugs and found $100,000 for first offense. That makes a specialized code to fast-track drug-related cases. Establish the National Drug Prevention, Rehabilitation and Reintegration Agency and propose that global action for sustainable development to be statutory body to lead and coordinate national efforts at addressing the issue of drug use prevention, rehabilitation, reintegration, and prosecution of offenders.
The petitioner also recommended the government to declare August 7 of each year as a National Day Against Drug Abuse in recognition of the fight against the growing epidemic. In a related development, Wapolo County Senator Boto Kanen and Representative Mama Briggs Mensah of Broom County District 6, who responded to the petition, admitted that the government has failed on its responsibility to protect children and communities from the growing threat of drug abuse.
On behalf of the protest and share on gender, we know we are responsible for the welfare of our children. But we want to say sorry to you people because we have failed you, the government has failed, the partners have failed. We are going to start a new beginning and we are going to make sure that everything that should be done will be done by the grace of God. Thank you. Yes. The legislature has seen that they will look at it. But as gender committee and women legislative caucus both the house, so that's why I want that for and start working tomorrow. So tomorrow we easy. No, what we do say? We tell you that you for us. When you go, we tell you for you.
We're meeting tomorrow to start the response of different recommendations.
We will start tomorrow.
Mama business.
We will check our youth.
Voices of Broom County District 6 Representative Mama Briggs Mensah and Wapolo County Senator Boto Kanen. Relatives of Emmanuel Payne, an officer of the Liberia Drug Enforcement Agency who was allegedly killed through mob violence on Besson Street in the township of Cartwheel, have threatened to retaliate against people they believe are responsible for the death of the officer. On Thursday, family members of the late LBE officer were seen on the Boutro Island parading with photo of the deceased officer as protest against what they term government inability to apprehend his alleged murderers. The relatives of the victim, including his mother and brother, have expressed readiness to attack anyone suspected of killing the FDA officer.
For a peaceful march, meaning that the government measures were just, to stop the just, and he went to do the function of the government. Now the government says no consent, no ask, more respect the CA. Not talking nothing of it. They are expecting us, the free family or the patent, to carry information to them. So we're not here to ask the government, we're not here to debate with the government. We have one justice, and there must be a justice for the native environment. Also, let no consent. Send July 22nd at 4 to 5 o'clock p.m. the incident occurred. Since then, we have nothing from the government and we hear nothing from the DA sector set. I say the point and then they were on duty, not off duty at the incident occurred. Work for him, for the government to manifest the power as hard as they should do. Unfortunately, we were killed. We see no impact, we see no momentum for them, we see nothing for them, no cause, no complaint, no information. We can go there to get our information, then they'll be asking us what going on. So that's the question there. So I tell you, we're sending messages for them, but they want to eliminate us, and we're not employing no one. If we take it, to come and look out on the other side. As we a family, we don't want for that girl to go backward, but our family will open a family dispute and get rid of a whole of people. Only they post or they post and step, they talk into it. We'll get to their family too and do it before he get hurt. They will take it from there too. Maybe they had the deal the money. So when he was killed, going there for a peaceful march and get the government the second chance. So when that come into it, they will do anything that we should do So who also die? I'll be waiting to die today or tomorrow for my sin. It will happen.
My son was killed by the day. And my son said that my son said the place. I'm not telling my son that because we are trying to sell my son now. More than 3 years, we went there. He said, "Mother, for where they pay you were running." And today, the boys that came to Baba Gomez, they were able to call him back. Inside working up on the promoter, you know, because they pay him for. Or 3 years ago, they came my son, and they don't want to bury my son. My son was over there. The people who said they can't talk to me. Said they can't water me. I said the one with the I would came my son. Then they want for me to go bury my son. How could they wait? I did my dad. So if they the mouth of my son blood today to go anywhere I want to go, they want to take me.
Voices of the mother and brother of Iman Payne, an officer of the LDA who was reportedly murdered in Caldwell. The Liberian government has reportedly transferred $300,000 to the Office for the Establishment of Violent Economic Crimes Code for its operations. According to the new narrative, the government transferred $300,000 out of its previously announced $2 million promise to the Office for the Establishment of the Violent Economic Crime Code on Thursday, July 31. For some time, the Office of the Establishment of the Violent Economic Crimes Code has been complaining of the lack of funds for operation and payment of salaries of its employees. New narrative reporter Anthony Stephen pulled the amount at 15% of President Joseph Boakar's promised US $2 million for 2025 for the court's operation.
Have you heard about President Boakar's partial financial fulfillment of 300,000 of his $2 million pledged to Liberia's War Crimes Court Office for its operations? The executive director of the office, Jara Babu, made the disclosure on Thursday during a meeting with local and international stakeholders working on Liberia's transitional justice process. The funds constitute 15% of the $2 million the president promised the office when he renewed its mandate in April. The office should be receiving $500,000 quarterly in line with the president's directive, but now it should have been paid $1 million. The partial funding comes months after Babu said they had exhausted the $368,000 they had received from the government in January. Babu said they had not been paid for 7 months. In an interview with us after the meeting, he said that they were glad that the money has finally come.
This gives us some relief, at least in terms of the staff salary and the basic operations and logistical needs, while we also move forward. So we're taking our time to calculate right now in terms of how much can we pay from this fund, how much more will remain for us to send to operations. As a responsible institution, we still have to keep the office's doors open. We have to engage the public. So we will definitely use some of the money for that purpose.
The partial funding comes at a time Boakar has been implementing a range of recommendations of the 2009 Truth and Reconciliation Commission report, including an official apology to victims, a commitment to honor a national memorial, and a public holiday for victims of the wars. The move has attracted praise from transitional justice experts. Babu has also disclosed that he is set to make an all-important trip this month to meet with the president of the Economic Community of West African States, ECOWAS, in Abuja, Nigeria. If Liberia is to establish a court to try so-called international crimes, it will need the regional body.
New narrative reported Antonin Stephen with that report. A reminder, you listen to King's News Broom, 45 minutes news about Liberia, Africa, and our one world. Still also following this afternoon, thousands of Liberians concerned Liberia's accused drug abuse petition national legislature to amend current drug law from 20 years to life imprisonment for traffickers. Spapolo County Senator Boto Cannon says the government has failed on its responsibilities. Supreme Court of Liberia cites former ruling party CDC and its headquarters landlord lawyers for legal conference over CDC's claims of existing seal contract with the property administrator. U.S. Embassy Liberia applauds Liberian civil society organizations and community-based organizations for organizing national march against drug abuse. Asserts that Liberia has been dealing with a flood of illicit drugs in several years. Away from home, the Zambian government has dismissed claims of dangerous pollution in the Cooper Belt Mountain region, following safety concerns raised by the U.S. Embassy. Tanzanians are mourning veteran politician and former Speaker of Parliament Joe Menge, who became the first to resign from the role after a public fallout with the president. We take a break to continue with more voices. Welcome back and thanks for being there. Executive Director of the National Rehabilitation for Drug and War Affected Persons has commended President Joseph Boakai's recent action plan aimed at combating the increase in the sale and consumption of drugs in the country. President Joseph Boakai on Wednesday issued a special presidential directive announcing an aggressive, multi-pronged national anti-drug action plan in response to the alarming surge. The president's national anti-drug action plan to be implemented in accordance with law includes seizure of properties linked to drug activities, performance mandate for LBA regional commanders with a 6-month results deadline, as well as national whistleblower program with cash rewards and protection for informants. Speaking in an interview Thursday, retired Colonel Augustine Nangwe described the president's recent statement as the right step in the right direction.
First, I want to extend my thanks and appreciation to the President and the Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces of Liberia. As a veteran, we say bravo to the President of the Republic of Liberia for what he just stated of on the drugs issue. Drugs cartel will not get no seat in this country. They should continue to be running around until we kick drugs out of Liberia. Drugs is not good, and we say no to drugs. According to Liberians, to always say no to drugs and tell the president thank you. What we need in our president already dead. The executive order the president gave is enough. We want to go after drugs people. It is enough. The president gave order to move, to destroy all drugs cartel and bring them to book and bring them under the law. The law must be their way and they must also be their way. Let the law take a course. For what the Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces of Liberia said, we said bravo to him and we said thanks. And to all listening audience, we are calling on you people today to say thank you to the President of the Republic of Liberia for that honor he gave. That is what we've been looking for. Because our children in the graveyard, they are to different kind of places, get to other places dying. And nobody cares for them. But I extend my thanks and appreciation again to the Commander-in-Chief of the Republic of Liberia. According on the President, all ministers, directors, civil society across the country should be tested of drugs. We want drug tests to be across the country. We start with the minister first. The president already did a drug test. My partner will be coming to the country in collaboration with me. We will be carrying on the drug testing situation. So I want to say thanks to the president and thanks to the Liberian people for highly cooperative.
Retired Colonel Augustine Nangwe there speaking. The mini Nina Farmers Incorporated in Bon County is seeking partnership with the government or governmental and non-governmental organizations for mass production of locally produced rice in the county. According to the Chief Executive Officer of the group, Michael Piu, MNFI has been working with the Ministry of Agriculture on the Star Pink project through a secure grain to do oil palm and cannon mill.
What we're doing across the district is that we aggregate. We are knowing as well. So we are trying to get at that level. But again, we'll need the support of government, we need the support of NGO, we need the support other organizations, other partners. In the next 2 to 3 years, we hope to see a crop already um, that will be viable, you know, viable and sustainable. As we have already seen the test of time, you know, so we are going to be at a level in which we will be referenced nationally and internationally. Okay. Yeah, hopefully we're getting it. Yeah, I mean, several times we have been working with the Ministry of Agriculture, on several projects. Like the Stapi is one of the projects which really which is making that of impact in our life, you know, because with Stapi we secure a grant from them to do oil palm meal, okay, and canna meal, you know. So at current, that meal is is partly finished. Okay. Yeah. So by the next oil palm season, we are going to be processing there. Yeah. Yeah, we don't right now. I will not say yes, but because right now we have like we have oil palm processing mill, as I told you. Yeah.
Many Nina Farmers Incorporated Chief Executive Officer Michael Pugh. The Environmental Protection Agency of Liberia has embarked on awareness across Bong and Bapolu counties to encourage citizens to mitigate the spread of diseases and food insecurity and negative impact of climate change. Speaking to reporters Thursday in Bong County, EPA Bong Coordinator Victor Bie call on residents to desist from cutting down forest trees and burning of dangerous substances, adding that there are major factors that are affecting the normality of the climate change.
Is that climate change is not just government's responsibility. Combating climate change must be everyone's business. Every citizen must take this as a challenge and say, look, as a citizen, I have a role to play in combating climate change or the effect of climate change. Uh, Climate change does not affect one person or does not look at who is the cause of the climate change. By that I'm saying, let's take for example, if my actions are actions that lead to climate change, the effect of climate change does not necessarily come back right to me as Victor Guli. Rather, it comes back to the country or the entire world. This climate change issue is a very sensitive thing. I'm sure that if we can even reach various schools, establish climate clubs, reach various communities, establish climate clubs, go to villages. I'm grateful to the EPA that the EPA has now started to think about the county's environmental committees. And currently we are probably in Bapolu and Bon County. We started having consultative meetings with county level leaders, commissioners, plan chiefs, see how best we can establish this county level environmental committee. And after that establishment, we are hopeful that we'll have a district level committee and then we'll have a client level committee. Because when that is done, everyone will take charge of the environment. Everyone will see himself as a leader or as a champion in combat.
He's Victor Bill EPA Bon Coordinator. Away from home, the Zambia government has dismissed claims of dangerous pollution in the Copper Belt mining region following safety concerns raised by the U.S. Embassy. On Wednesday, the U.S. Embassy issued a health alert ordering the immediate withdrawal of its personnel in Kitwe town and nearby areas due to concerns of widespread contamination of water and soil linked to a February spill at the Sino Metas mine. This spill happened when Talent Dam used a store toxic waste and heavy metals collapsed into the Kafu River, the key drinking water source, following heavy rain. The U.S. Embassy said there was new information that showed the context of hazardous substances. And Tanzania's are mourning veteran politician and former Speaker of Parliament, Job Nengi, who became the first to resign from the role after a public fallout with the president. Nengi, who has served as an MP for the past 25 years, died in Dodoma, Tanzania's capital, on Wednesday at the age of 62. The cause of death was not given, although local media reported that he had been undergoing treatment at a hospital in the city. In a statement, President Hassan has said she received the sorrow the news of Hudden's death and has sent condolences to his family and friends. Well, on that note, that's how we come to a near end of this edition of King's Newsroom. But before we leave, a quick reminder of stories we followed in the headlines. Thousands of Liberians concerned Liberians against drug abuse petition national legislature to amend current drug law from 20 years to life imprisonment for traffickers. As Bapolo County Senator Boto Cannon says, the government has failed on its responsibilities. Supreme Court of Liberia cites former ruling CDC and its headquarters landlord. Lawyers for legal conference over CDC's claims of existing sale contract with the property administrator. You also heard in the news U.S. Embassy Liberia employs Liberian civil society organizations and community-based organizations for organizing a national march against drug abuse, asserts that Liberia has been dealing with a flood of illicit drugs in several years. Away from home, the Zambia government has dismissed claims of dangerous pollution in the Cooper Belt Mountain region following safety concerns raised by the U.S. Embassy. Tanzanians are mourning the veteran politician and former Speaker of Parliament, Joe Mengistu, who became the first to resign from the role after a public fallout with the president. Many thanks to our reporters, correspondents, and all those who helped in making this edition of King's Newsroom a success. Newton Topa brought you the news bulletin. Sam Andrews started control and handled the technical aspect of this edition. On behalf of the team, I'm Shemodea. I presented. Thanks for listening and watching.